Hi everybody, this is Liz Vukite of SamiSupplies.com, and if you're watching this video right now, you are here to learn how to make this bracelet. This is a double-stranded 4-braid bracelet, and I'm going to show you how to make this today. So let's get into it. What I'm holding here are some examples of some things you can do regarding a 4-braid strand here. Now, our earlier kits have been a double braided, sort of like a regular braid like this. We offered those for many, many years, and after lots and lots of students and letters and phone calls, etc., we've had requests to actually show you different types of braid. Now, not just to give you written directions, but I find for most of my students and a lot of my clients, the biggest question is, how much material do I measure out in order to do a 4-braided piece? These all have a double strand. Some of them have introduction of color in them, which are all things that you can do down the road. But for right now, I'm just going to take you through the very, very basics of a 2-stranded 4-braid variation. You will take your fabulous hobby clamp here that has the wonderful holes here on either side, does not matter. We're going to clamp this to a table, and if you haven't watched our other little video on how to use this very awesome, simple tool, you will take your paper clip and pull it apart. And I don't care which end you use here. Pick one, doesn't matter. And you are going to thread this through so that the hook is sitting straight up. Take your 4 strands after you've attached your table clamp to the table. You're going to double these over on the end of your paper clip. Now this looks like a lot of strands, but don't worry. We're going to divide these up into 4 groups with 2 strands in each group, just like this. All right, I've got my 4 different groups here with 2 strands in each group. And what I'm going to do is focus on crisscrossing these 2 strands in the center, just like this. And then the next thing I'm going to do is start on my left-hand side here and bring this over to the center like this. And this outer right-hand side is going to go under and over the center, and you are going to pull. Let's try that again. I'm going to start with my left. I'm going to bring this to the center. Make sure you keep those strands parallel side by side. I'm going to go to the right, and I'm going to go under, keeping everything nice and straight. And I'm not going to pull this until I have both of these strands in my hands on either side. Let's try it again. Start from the left-hand side. Bring this to the center. And I call this guy sort of like my sheep, that right-hand side. This sheep's going to go under the fence and over the hedge to get to the other side. Let's try it again. Start with the left, bring to the center, and get these 3 strands kind of situated in your right hand or your left hand if you're left-handed. And here's our sheep. It's going to go under the fence and over the hedge, and then we will pull both sections straight out to the side. Now I know this looks a little complicated at first, and it's a lot of strands to work with, but pay attention to your tension. You're going to have to pull the work close to you, and remember not to pull those strands tight until you have both sections on either side. Oh, I almost turned one there. There's our sheep. It's going to go under, over, and pull. This one's going to go over And I've got my 3 here on the side, and then I'm going to go under, over, pull. Now you can actually pull these sections very, very tight. You can do them very loosely if you like to. But again, we're using 4 strands, 19 inches each, and this will yield about a 6.5 to a 6 3/4 inch length of braid for you to use as trim on something you want to sew or for braid on a bracelet. Now I want to point out something else. Don't be concerned about this section here. This is going to look a little funky, but remember, if you've made these bracelets before, this will be hidden in the body of the strip that you use. So we won't see this. So I don't care how you divide all these strands up, as long as you get these 4 groups with 2 strands in each group.
Action.
Remember, if you start to get lost or you don't know where you left off, get your 2 strands out to the side like this and take your left hand here, bring this to the center, and remember our sheep out here on the right, he's going to go under the fence, over the hedge, and then we're going to pull this nice and tight. Start from the left, this will go into the center, here. This, our sheep over here, love sheep, is going to go under the fence, over the hedge, and pull. Now I'm pulling this pretty tight, and it's all up to you how much tension you actually want to use. If you use a very, very tight tension, you will not see any of the leather in the center here. Some people actually like to weave it a little bit loosely so that you can actually have a peekaboo aspect if you put this on a piece of reindeer hide so you can see the leather through the braid, and that's a really nice application too. Remember, left, bring it to the center. We've got our 3 to the side. Our sheep here is going to go under the fence, over the hedge, pull. One guy to the center, under the fence, over the hedge, pull. Take your time. Don't judge how fast you're going by how fast I'm going. I'm going to kind of Martha Stewart this for you so that I can get to the end and show you how to finish it. And in all honesty, if you know how to do this particular style of braid, this is the basic for adding all different kinds of things. See, I almost like rolled one here. Make sure you're very careful not to do that. There we go. Under the fence, over the hedge, and pull. I'm at the end of my braid right now, and as you can see, I just have a little few strands left here. You could leave it if you like to. I'm kind of a freak in the way that when I start sewing, I don't want some of this braid to come undone. So a good rule of thumb when you are at the end of this is to grab the end of the braid, like you have with your other braids that you've done, and pick one of these strands and unwind the wire down to your thumb. Next, what you'll do is grab all of these strands down to create a kind of a little fringe. And you can wrap front to back or back to front, I don't care. But you're going to wrap this around twice and give it a little press. Just like that. And then just bring all this stuff down here. And we're going to trim it right here. But I want you to take a look and see. We've got about 6 3/4 of an inch. That is using 0.35 millimeter tin thread, 4 strands at 19 inches apiece. Some of you may have already downloaded our How to Make Saami Bracelet PDF, which will actually take you through step by step on how to make one of our most basic bracelets, which is the double-stranded 3-braid bracelet. But quite frankly, some of the steps will remain the same for everything that you do. So I've actually measured out a couple strips of reindeer hide. This is the alder or tan, which is a really beautiful kind of color, so that when I start stitching this for you guys, you can actually see it. But I'm making one that's a little bit longer. I ended up with a little longer braid here. So you will see here on the back, I'm gonna have a little bit of excess, which I'll cut off. But this is really about all I need poking through the opposite side here. We don't wanna have this come all the way to the edge. So a good rule of thumb with this, and again, it's just a rule of thumb, but with most of these bracelets, we like to measure in approximately 2 centimeters from the edge and make a little mark with the leather here, and do that on the opposite side as well, right here. And this is kind of important. There is a polished side to the leather and a suede side. You can choose which one, however, the finished side has a little bit of waterproofing on it. You're going to fold this lengthwise, and again, you can find a lot of these steps in our How to Make a Saami Bracelet downloadable PDF. And you'll take your scissors, and you're going to make a little cut here, and I mean a little cut. Make this smaller rather than larger. This only needs to be wide enough to accommodate the width of your braid without smushing the end up. Okay? The next step is to actually thread the braid through. So from the suede back, we're going to take the loop end. That's the easiest. I'm gonna pull this through. It almost starts to looking like a bracelet. And again, sometimes I braid a little bit tighter. I might end up with a little bit extra length, but in all honesty, I only really need about 1/4 of an inch of this here on the other end. We need a little real estate from here to here, as you know from the other directions, to add our loop and our button at this end. So I'm just going to leave this long. As you can see, I'm going to have a little, but I'm not going to trim this until I actually am done stitching. Sometimes you can like stitch so tightly that this can start to foreshorten. So we just want to make sure that we have all the stitching done before we actually do that final trim. If you have access. Or excess, excuse me. You need access and you need excess. All right. Now, the way I do this is I actually unthread. I swing out the loop end out like a barn door. And you can use rubber cement, you can use Elmer's glue. This is a little bit of tacky glue. I'm not a huge fan of this, however, it does get the job done and it's a lot less toxic to breathe. And you're just going to make a very thin line down the center of your strip. And I have not unthreaded this. This is still in place because now I have to reintroduce this end in to the end here, and I've got plenty of time to actually center this. Now, if you need to kind of like hold this up vertically and take a look at your braid and you need to add a little bit more, you can do that with a toothpick. But literally, it's best to use less rather than more. If you are a mad gluer, it is really a drag to have to take a water and a Q-tip and clean up all of your glue. So this literally is just supposed to be an assist. All right, we're going to thread up our needle. I'm going to show you how to stitch these on, this particular braid on. These are fabulous number 11 needles that we carry on SamiSupplies.com, and this wonderful two-bird monofilament type transparent thread that we use. So whether you are a really fantastic seamstress or a stitcher or not at all, this is magic for those of us that aren't that great at sewing. So don't let that deter you. You will need to add several sections of thread while you're sewing, because if you, again, have looked at any of our other projects or done any of our bracelet kits, this stuff is wonderful and it's horrible because it will disappear when you do your stitches, but it also can just disappear and you can't find your place anymore while you're sewing. So again, this actually has a bit of memory from the coil, so you're going to want to smooth this through your fingers and pull it so that it ends up being a bit straight. And I've measured out only about 18 inches. That's kind of what I allow myself, because otherwise anything much longer and you're just going to spend all your time unraveling it. All right, now I'm ready to actually thread my needle. So I'm going to take my number 11 here. And I only need one, and I'm going to go ahead and thread it. Once I have my needle threaded, what I'm going to do is something that kind of is counterproductive as far as like regular sewing, if we're sewing with regular thread. But remember, we're not sewing with regular thread. I'm actually going to tie a double knot right up to the eye of the needle here. So go ahead and make a loop, pull your strand through here, and pull it nice and tight once. And one more time. And once you have that done, we have just a little bit of a tail here, you're going to pull the needle so that knot ends up being right at the base of the eye. I don't care how you get a knot in the other end of your thread, but you're going to need to make a knot. So I just literally learned this year. Hold your needle horizontal and grab the end where the eye is, and take the other end of your thread here and line it across the back of the needle with the end pointing towards the eye, and grab all that on the end. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to coil this around once, twice, 3, 4, I like 5. Tilt this up. Grab that entire coil, pinch it tight, and pull the needle through your fingers. And you will end up with a knot. Leave a little tail on here. Once I have my knot done and I have it anchored to the back, I'm going to go ahead and start stitching. Now, in previous braids, this would run across these two strands, but we're not going to do that with this type of braid. We're actually going to separate these two strands to the right and pull our thread through and kind of move this back. And I'm going to go to the left here. And I'm going to separate these two strands like this and stitch. Now this zigzag way of sewing is explained in, again, the downloadable PDF version of how to make a Saami bracelet. But I'm coming up very, very close to the edge of my braid. The only thing that's different is that I'm not going across these two strands like with thinner braids. I'm actually separating these two so that the invisible thread nestles down in between the coils of the wire, the coiled wire. And as you can see, it does disappear. So you're going to do that all the way to the end. If the thread comes across these two, sometimes it actually, and you don't pull it tight, it's too long of a stitch. It's a little easier and a little safer to actually pull that nice and tight, and then it will disappear. Keep your thumb where you're working as you work your way down, and continue on your merry way. Where do we go from here? Well, once you have your braid secured onto your leather strip, you're going to want to go and download those PDF instructions entitled How to Make a Saami Bracelet. Now, for those of you that purchase a kit, there'll be a code in there where you can get them for free. Otherwise, they are $5. But once you get those instructions, what will happen is that you will find images that will show you step by step how to sew up the back, and also how to attach your loop and attach your button. And something else to keep in mind is if you see styles online that you like and you want to order individual materials, think of all of the different combinations and variations that you might be able to explore. But if you have trouble wanting to know like what to measure out or what to get, I'm more than happy to help you with that. You can send me an image, you can leave me a comment, or you can even email me. But in the meantime, try your hand at a couple of these things, and you can also send me pictures of your finished projects. I'd love to see what you're working on. And if you haven't subscribed, please do and get that sweet 20% off your materials. So happy braiding, and I'll see you soon.